Okay, well, good morning. Thank you for coming to our second session for the Auditor Treasures. I'm Gwen Gillespie, and I have Susie, Julie, Liz, and Shannon here with me, who will be presenting as well. But I'll get started with just an overview of where we are in our tax season and what's coming, what you would be waiting for, and all of that piece. So if you want to bring up my document, I'll just share the screen. Okay, as always, if you have questions, feel free to unmute and ask, or you can ask in the chat, whatever works for you. So we'll get started. So last week we met with the assessors, and one of the things that they have on their menu is a little, it isn't the full blown, but a way to look at the PTR Social Security information that you as auditors will submit later on this tax season. And just like the PRISM, we are anticipating that once you submit your PRISM, you will do this process as well and submit that. So we have everything out of the way before we actually print our tax statements. Not accumulate and work with your outsourcers on tax statements, but actually say, good to go, ready to mail them. So back to this option, we worked with the assessors last week to get this up to snuff. So we have a few changes if we just hop down to make to your process, which is on tax M24 number 6. There's been, I would call them major changes in what the DOR wants. And we even had a conversation last week, not our first one, with the DOR on what they want in what's called now the homestead submission, because they have gotten rid of what the assessors did in the summer, which was the duplicate homestead submission. So now they've got them all rolled into one. We're looking at the next year of assessors homesteads and information and reporting it with your tax information. And yeah, we're hoping it all goes the way the DOR expects, but we don't know. We're just trying to get our piece in place so we submit what they're asking for. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on. This is just an FYI for you that the upper limit for the 0.5 tier of the ag codes has been raised from 3.5 to 3.8. That will not come into play until next year for 25-26. But as the assessors are opening their new year files and calculating TC, that will be in place. Okay, valuation notices and tax statements. So as we discussed before, the outsourcers had asked us to bring the address, meaning the taxpayer address where it's being mailed to, in line. So it was in the files the same between the valuation notices and tax statements, because more and more of you are mailing these together, and it was just easier for them to match them up if they were exactly the same. So we're making that change. You don't have that yet. However, the outsourcers, I did send that to them like I think even 2 weeks ago. So the next tax release you get will include this. So the valuation notices, we just changed the mailing address. That's all that happened there. For your tax statements, we did add the one field, which is for the stub. And what that is if there isn't So like 95, probably 97% of the time, it will remain the same as what's on line 14. But if there is an advance payment, the total tax due on your stub will reflect that advance payment. Now, the first half, second half always did reflect the advance payment, but the total due will now reflect that as well. And just a reminder that any changes you make with the outsourcer or Sue, if you move fields around, of course, you're not changing any data because we generate the file, so we know what data is in there. But if you make any, you move this field here or this there, we need to know that too. Because when we do our web tax statements and our L statement, we want to match what you sent. And so we're not involved in those conversations you have with the outsourcer. And even though Sue's in this office, we may or may not hear that either, but we need to know that. So just an email to someone here would be great. Also, with our new tax web, you will not, when you do an abated omitted tax statement, you will not have to contact Sue any longer to move this across to the web. As soon as you do that, you'll still have to take the process on the iSeries that says move to the web. But what that will do is that will put it in our file and it will just automatically go across that night during the poll. Hopefully we can get a lot of you going on the tax web. We are circling back to that. We had some requests from the assessors in a couple counties to make a couple changes, and we've made them, and we're going to get them testing this week, and then we're going to be starting to look for other volunteers. If you don't volunteer, we'll be contacting you. So that's where we're at with the tax web as well. Okay, next up. So we had to add some new codes for the assessors in the assessed module, and they were the KV lines less than 69, greater than 69 KV. But what's happening is MPs between these power line companies kind of cross between the transmission and the real estate. And so what we're proposing to do, and this will be in your next tax release as well, is when you go into option 3 on your transmission distribution line menu, we are going to do a full TC calc and take into account if an MP crosses between real estate and transmission lines, we will consider where the real estate left off. Now, obviously, we cannot change real estate because that has been certified. You're doing rates, that can't happen. But what we can do is look at where the real estate is at in their breaks to see if they've used all of their 1.5 up, then we have to shift to the 2%. So any questions on that?
We will also be going over that later during the transmission lines part of this presentation.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Okay, and the final thing is, as we discussed probably over and over, you might be sick of it, but we want to strongly encourage you, you don't have the programming yet, but you will, to do your PRISM after you have proofed your tax totals. You can be working with your outsourcer on tax statements. You can accumulate them. You can be working with them, with Sue, whoever. But at that point, we will strongly encourage you to submit your PRISM and also this PTR file. And the reason being, I know all of you over the years have probably had trouble with Prism. And depending upon the trouble, it can be real trouble with the fact that tax statements are mailed. And now we have to backtrack in some way. And that's what we don't want. We want to know when we send our tax statements, we have our rates right, we have our special assessments right, we have all of the things that Prism can ding us for taken care of. And then we send our tax statements. And there'll be a sequence given to you on that whole process, but that's what we're proposing to do this year to help ourselves, to help the state help us for a change. I don't mean that, but they do help us. I mean, they do. I mean, Prism they catch things, and let's just use it. That is all I have for this morning. And if there's no questions, we'll move on.
Yeah, if you have a question, speak up, put it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll move on to our sequences. We sent out the document yesterday. That these are the sequences you're going to be getting, and you'll note that they change slightly, and they will come numbered. On the front, this tax prep and calc 3 part A is going to say step 1. And then transmission and distribution lines A is going to say step 2. Just trying to help our new, the work that you have to do hasn't really changed, but the order you're doing it in has changed. And so we're just trying to be really clear on the new order for you. So this is what we'll walk through today. Like we say, you don't have all of the programming for the sequences yet. Once we get that programming to you, then we'll send you the sequences. But you're going to start doing your real estate tax prep and calc up to your statements. Then we're going to go into transmission and distribution lines because they go into your Prism 3, and we're going to take them up until we're about ready for statements. Then you're going to switch over to your abstract, which we'll walk through with you today, and proof that and make sure you're ready. And then Prism. Now, this is the sequence you're not likely to get right now because we're not quite ready with the state to submit it. So when you get your sequences, you'll probably be missing step 4. And that just means if you get to this point, you pause. And once we're ready with the state, we'll send out that step 4 to walk you through submitting your Prism. And then once you have your final approval from the state and you know your files are good, then you go back to your tax prep and calc part B and walk through it. And you can finish up your transmission and distribution lines, your wind tower and solar power, and your mineral interest. So a lot of it, for those of you who've gotten it in the past, hasn't changed. But if you're looking for your tax prep and calc 3, 4, and 5, those are now split into tax prep and calc 3A, 3B, transmission lines 3A, 3B, and the auditor's abstract sequence. Again, if you have questions, ask now or contact us at any point when the sequences are going out. So we go into tax prep and calc 3A. This is one of the sequences that has changed. Oh, I zoomed in for those. Oh. Let me, how can I tell if I'm at 100%? Try this again. There we go. No, oh no, I am at, okay. So first, before you start the sequence, you're going to want to have your final assessor's abstract. You're going to want your assessor to swear that they're not making any more changes. You can check, if you want to, your TIF captured value on your assessor's abstract. You would go into your TIF menu and run option 11 parcel listing, and you would look here at the captured percentage and check your assessor's abstract line 1040 and make sure you have that same captured percentage, whether it's really check your county totals. And if we're off there, then we can look at other things. So you want to have that data together. You want to have completed tax prep and calc part 2, which you already have, which is inputting your finalized levies and your rates. Make sure that's all set and ready to go. You have rates from neighboring counties for school districts, all of that's in there. You also want to have finished your tax prep and calc part 1. You want to make sure, again, with that TIF, that your TIFs looked good, your power lines are updated, your ditch to solid waste specials are all in. At this point, you'll need to stop changing your specials, not letting people, pay them off, because we're now putting them onto the tax statements. And then you'll want to do a final special assessment calculation before you move into this tax prep and calc 3, where we're going to be calculating our taxes. So then the sequence starts. If you are somebody who likes visual help, when you get your sequences, you can go back. We will post this online when we're done. And in the bottom left corner here, I've put what step we're talking about with each slide. So you can go through the slides to look for whatever step you're on, or call us with questions. Step 1 is going into your county file, your system file, and making sure we've done our auditor's year-end sequence. You've moved your payable year to 2025. That means you've removed your 2024 paid ups. You want to look at your due dates. These are the dates that go on the back of your tax statements, adjust for weekends and holidays. Step 2 of this sequence is going to be calculating your tax values. We kind of think of calculation, accumulation of totals, and listing of totals as a kind of a group that we do here. You'll start with option 5, calculate your tax values. You need to have everyone out of your system when you do this, at least your final tax calc. You need everyone out of your system so we don't miss any parcels. You want to calculate all of your parcels, and then what you do with the special assessments is up to you. Typically, counties will choose yes. There are some counties that will choose no because they have special circumstances. When you do it, there are 3 edit listings that are generated. The first one has to do with if you picked yes, your special assessment reorg edit listing is going to tell you the special assessments that have been deleted. These are special assessments or have been removed. Special assessments maybe that were deleted since your last special assessment reorganization, or that were maybe paid off. So you want to look at this, just check this listing, make sure it makes sense to you. The second listing is across county parcels with unused ag credit. This is actually will help with the last step of your cross-county sequence, letting neighboring counties know if you have parcels that have unused ag credit so that they can use that in their taxes. That really should have been communicated before, but this is a good proof listing. And then ag credit parcels with 0 tax listing. This is parcels that have ag credit and taxes, but somehow all the taxes are washed out. And we get people calling us saying, there's $51 of taxes and $46 of ag credit. Why is that? If you were to go and type quick access, or into your quick access, type a tax, that gives you your auditor's values. If you look at your 2024-25 year in a tax, you can see we have 5102 of taxes and 4640 of ag credit. But in here, you can see there's also a school bond credit. So in reality, the total credit meet the total taxes, meaning there isn't actually an issue with this parcel, but it is always worth double checking. The next step, once you feel good about those edit listings, is accumulating your tax totals. That's running option 6. When you run this, you will get this tax capacity comparison listing, and you want it to be empty. If there's nothing listing in here, that means that all your tax capacities are the same. What we see most often is what's in this box, where like your assessor's tax capacity, your current assessor's TC and your assessor's abstract TC are different. And that typically means that there has been some change to these files since they gave you their abstract. You can talk to them or you can call us. Typically the files, the numbers on the left and right are the same because they're pulled from the value files, and these in the middle are the same. If you cleaned up your rates when you were inputting them, which is what our sequence tells you to do, then these abstract numbers, or whatever the current one info is at the time, load into your rate maintenance. You just want to check this listing before moving on to make sure it's empty. If it's not, you're going to have issues that you want to resolve before moving on. Call us with questions. Then if you have that empty listing, you can go into option 16 and list your tax totals. we recommend listing by any group that you have a levy for, because you'll use that listing to check back to your levies. So you can certainly run all of them, but you're going to want to at least start with the ones that you have a levy for, and you print everything so you can check everything. When it prints off, this is kind of the reference of data that we get from our value files, this column. This column is our gross taxes. This is what you're going to check back to your levies. You're going to take your, if this is our county total, we're going to look at our county total and check it back to our levies. This column here is our additions and subtractions, and then this is what goes out to taxpayers. We've had a couple questions wondering why, they were, the township levy was 11,600,000, but they're actually going off of 11,500,000. It's because the difference is an addition and subtraction. That's something that you should be getting from the state. So if there's questions with this, contact us, let us know. Just kind of a brief summary of what you're looking at here. So when you're tracking, like I say, if you wanted to do the county line, you would look at the county section. If you want to check your township levies, you would look at your township section. We recommend pulling out the actual documents you get and just doing a double check proof. You want what's on your township line to be about the same as the levy that you put in. This is coming from the rate input listing. And it should be pretty close and not less than, correct? We have to round, but we always try to round up to make sure you're getting at least the levy that you put in there. Remember, if you have a rural service district, then your rural service district with your township will add up to what you are getting here. You're going to want to look at your township listing and your rural service district listing to go to back to your paper levies. The two of them together will do those paper levies. Same thing with the school districts. Remember that for school, we have school taxes and we have referendum taxes. We split those out. So the TC taxes are type 5 and the referendum taxes are type 35. So if you're proofing those, you're going to be looking at your type 5s in your rate input and your type 35s in your rate input to look for your school tax and then your referendum school tax. Keep in mind, for instance, these numbers don't match because both of these schools have significant amounts coming from neighboring counties. If you want to make sure you're getting up to your levy, you would have to get the amounts from your neighboring counties to double check those numbers. And then the last thing you can check is your tax increment. If you go into your tax increment and do option 15, you'll get a tax listing, and your net tax listing should also be printing on that abstract or on the tax totals. So again, we recommend that you check back to original documents. This is why you would run each option that you have an original document for. You can use your initial rates listing to double check or troubleshoot why something is off. If you can't figure it out, don't hesitate to give us a call and we can look at it with you. The next step, step 4 of the sequence, is to set your delinquent flags. Delinquent flags are sort of automatically set overnight. They look at who has not paid their taxes yet, and it's used to mark tax statements for whether they are eligible for a property tax refund. So if you have people who have, you've inputted their taxes that day and they maybe haven't been updated, you could go into option 8 here. If you have inputted those payments and it's now all ready to go, you could do a mass reset. Or if those payments are sitting in counter payments and you don't want to apply them to the taxes yet, you could go into option 1 and maintain just those parcels. You can always take option 18 to list and see if they're on the list, if you've gotten them off. Again, call with questions. Any changes you make here are going to be reset overnight. So you want to make sure you're doing this the same day as the next steps of the sequence. which is to assign receipt numbers. We recommend this round taking real and personal because that's what we run with our real estate in the spring, and starting with receipt number 1. You can certainly choose your own receipt numbers, but these are the recommendations we have just based on numbers in our counties and what seems to work well for people. These are the ways that we're setting those receipt numbers. And then you'll list your tax rolls. There are 2 ways to list them. Listing them by option 1 is going to give you your totals. You can check those totals, do kind of one last proof, and check them back to your tax totals. Listing it by detail is going to give you a quick view of what will be on the tax statements, and you really want to look at those to make sure you're doing receipt numbers. This is the point in the sequence where you need to stop making name changes, because we're now looking at the details. We're printing names. You don't want those names to be changing. So again, your totals, if you're wanting to check your totals back to your tax totals, you can look at your net tax due and your total tax due, and that should go here. This is your net tax due. These are showing you your estimated market and your net tax due. Here's your estimated market and your net tax due for your township. And then your total tax due should go back. If you're doing your details, you can check to make sure you're having receipt numbers that are printing on your parcels. You can check anything in here you want, but right here is where you would look for the receipt numbers to make sure you're getting those printing. It is very unfortunate when we have tax statements go out without receipt numbers. It makes more work for whoever's inputting those receipts in the counties, and it happens regularly. So we really like to remind you often to go back and check those receipt numbers. Then the next step is listing your tax statements, and you can list these tax statements and start proofing them at this point. You're going to go in. Remember that we said if you choose yes to option 2A, then any amounts that are already like at this point in your advanced payments option, which is tax M32, will go on to your tax statements. If you have not inputted those amounts, we don't magically know what they are. They will not go onto the tax statements, even if you say yes. The other thing to note is that, again, we're doing real and personal property. You would typically do both to get everything to print. And then you can, if you're doing an outsourcer, you can send that to your outsourcer and start your proofing process. If you're printing in-house, you can start working with Sue to get that done. But we strongly suggest that you pause here and then you run your abstract and get your PRISM approval before continuing with this tax sequence. If you have transmission and distribution lines, you also have to do those before your abstract and your PRISM. So here's transmission and distribution lines, the first part of it. You have to do this after your tax sequence 3A because we calculate our real estate first. Then you can go in here, you can certainly maintain and list parcel information. You can maintain and list value information. You know, proof this or check with your, I think in a lot of counties, the assessors do this, check with your assessor, just make sure this is all good to go. And then we walk down to step 3. This is what Glenn was talking about earlier. You do not have this yet, but you will by the time you get the sequence. They have added to step 3 a TC calc. So now that we've done our final real estate calc, now you will do a transmission lines calc when you open this, and it will show you your TC values after doing a final calc. You need to go in here to make sure everything is correct. This calculates your tax capacity, and opening this generates these this information, which will populate your abstract. Once we've done that, then we're going to do kind of the same thing we did with taxes. We're going to calculate, accumulate, and move on to receipts. This time, transmission and distribution lines, we recommend starting with the different receipt number. You're going to get your tax totals and your tax rolls again. Check for your receipts. You can proof those tax totals. This is not typically doesn't, this is like gravy to the levies, correct? We're not proofing this data back to levies. It's just so that you know what you're getting from this information. But if you do the, again, the detailed No, it's not on here. The detailed tax rolls, you can check those receipt numbers. And then we'll pause. For your transmission and distribution lines, we don't typically send those statements off or have to do any proofing. So for these, we just want to get to the spot where we feel good about our receipt numbers, about our tax totals, all of that. And then we are ready to check our data, proof our abstract. So I'm going to quit my screen share. And let's take over. Speak up with questions.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Dingman, and I'll be going over the auditor's abstract and the TIF abstract. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, hold on, technical difficulty here. This sequence will help you prepare for your PRISM 3 submission, and proofing your auditor's abstract and the TIF abstract is an excellent way to ensure that your PRISM 3 information is correct. Once you've completed this sequence, you will be ready to submit your PRISM. Please do not submit your PRISM until we send out the PRISM sequence, which will be coming, indicating that all programming is in place for a successful submission. Before starting the sequence, you of course needed to do what Susie just presented, Tax Prep and Calc Part 3, Part A, and the Transmission Distribution Line Sequence, Part A. If your counties have parcels in the transmission line subsystem, of course. If you don't need to worry about it. The first thing that you would want to do is proof your fund abstract numbers. And we will be sending out a sequence that, well, it's not really a sequence, but it's a handout that explains all of your abstract numbers, etc. And you would want to look at your initial tax rates before you start. Each levy line should have an abstract number. If numbers are missing, update them referencing step 1 of your tax prep and calc 2 sequence. And how you get to these listings, they're in menu tax M22, option number 11, your list rates by fund type, and then option number 1, initial tax rates. And you will get this report on the bottom left-hand side. Proof fund your abstract numbers continued. If you have any special districts that are not recognized by the state, they need to be added into the township city fields using item number 700, which is a miscellaneous. If you have school district debt for a debt carryover from a school consolidation, you'll use item number 755. In addition, special taxing districts that are recognized by the state should be in item 880. General rate, and then 885 is general obligation bond debt, or 890 other debt. If you have more than one, they're also in items 880, 885, and 890. And again, we do have a handout that we will be sending that explains these in great detail. And just so you know, if these item numbers aren't correct, your abstract and PRISM won't be correct either. So be sure to keep a close eye on that stuff. So setting up the auditor's abstract parameter file. Okay, so I'm having some technical difficulties again. Okay, here it is. Again, this is a menu tax M20, option number 2 in your tax prep and calc reporting, your favorite place to be during this time. And then menu tax M22, tax calc and reporting, and option number 20, auditors abstract options. The first one is the parameter setup file. This is where you're going to be doing the background work for this part of it. And just so you know, this option can be run as many times as needed to ensure a correct abstract. The special taxing districts will list first with one screen per district type, and you'll need to press enter to progress on through them. Press F8 to skip to the county record, which is your final screen. Input your descriptions and state codes as necessary. Special districts not recognized by the state, such as the fire districts or rural service districts, should have blank description and state code fields. All state recognized districts should have description and state codes. If left blank, the special districts other than rural service district rates are added to their respective township city tax capacity rates. Okay, my screen is not progressing with this.
Like there's a delay.
Yeah.
It-
Is
it
your screen
comes-
updating? Just this one's not?
Mine is, this isn't. Okay, here it is. Sorry. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer.
I think it's the Zoom. I don't think it's you.
Okay. So when you're in the parameter file, this is what it's going to look like, and you're gonna wanna follow your function keys at the bottom. F5 updates and moves to the next district. F12 moves to the previous district. F8 skips to the county record screen. F3 will exit. As every time you exit, you'll get a proof listing in your spooled file, and that will be handy to verify your data, etc. F6 will open up a screen on the right. Input exact info to jump into a specific district, or input only township number or township city school district numbers to get to start at the closest district. Each district is displayed. Verify that the special district descriptions and the county-wide descriptions, etc., have the right codes. The fields highlighted in yellow to the right are editable, and data entered will pull into the PRISM submission. Almost all of the adjustments should be done in the first 4 lines. They are for adjustments made in your 2024 to any tax year, 2024 or prior years. All amounts are in whole dollars. The bottom 3 lines are not for other years, but instead for any adjustments fitting specific PRISM codes. Any adjustments input from in the bottom 3 lines must have a PRISM code assigned. Place the cursor in a field to the right-hand box designated above with the arrow. Then press F2 prompt to view the codes listed below, and place an X in front of the appropriate code. Then press enter to pull the codes into the field. If listed codes are not appropriate to the situation, adjustments should instead be included in the top 4 lines. Okay, I'm waiting for my screen to update. When it does update eventually, it'll be on the last screen of the parameter file.
There.
Okay. So as shown in this picture below, this is the last screen that is to be displayed in your county totals screen. Oh, goodness. That's kind of glitchy again. Sorry about that.
Low over here, you know?
I don't know. I wish you guys could see what I'm showing you.
There we go.
There.
Okay, finally, sorry about that. So. Okay, hold on 2 seconds here. I got kicked out of Zoom.
Yeah, I bet you do have a glitchy internet. Maybe we should just use this computer for everything, huh?
Okay, this will be coming eventually.
Any questions while we're waiting? If there's no questions, we are going to assume that you all know everything and will be able to put your taxes through with no problem this year.
That's always the hope.
Yeah, okay, here it is. I'm so sorry about this. I guess my computer is special. So this is the final screen of the parameter file, and this is the county record. Let me see where I'm at. If you use the transmission subsystem, the following fields will pull data from there as well. If you have a senior citizen deferral amount, the parcel number and the dollar amount, CPT will need to manually enter that information in for you. That's shown in the bottom yellow here. And if everything looks correct, you can field exit through all the fields. Oh, I'm sorry, if anything looks incorrect, you'll need to field exit through these fields. And then once you hit enter again, the system will drop it back in accordingly. Okay, so my screen is not working again. Maybe we should just take a break or something.
It wants to edit, doesn't it? Edit.
But do you have your PowerPoint somewhere on the D drive and I could just open it here?
Wants to edit.
Okay. Here, I'll email it to you. I don't have it on the D drive.
Okay. Oh, the joys of technology.
Comforting to know that computer places actually have internet issues as well. It's not just Michelle at Big Stone.
No, it's like, it's quite embarrassing because it shouldn't, everything was like, must be me. Oops.
We had somebody else having connection issues in this room before. I think for some of the Wi-Fi's were like a little far away.
It's not even sending.
Right, because if we're having Wi-Fi, connection issues. So Liz is going to walk us through the end of proofing your abstract. We have a few more steps left to go. Once you're done proofing your abstract, then you're to the place where you're ready to submit PRISM. Got it? Here's your slide.
Oh, I'm not even, the VPN disconnected too.
Oh, hold on, I gotta. I started the slideshow, but I haven't shared my screen, so we can see it, but they can't. Okay. All right, Liz. Poof.
Okay.
You're done with this one?
Yes.
Okay, so we did number one. Oh, we're done with this one. Oh, go back a sec here. Okay, so we built, we did step number one, parameter setup and proof list. Everything looked great. Now you can move on to building the auditor's abstract file, which is option number two. And all that does is it just builds it, it preps it. And then number three, print the auditor's abstract, fill in your county official's name and abstract date. And you'll want to use the listings to verify the fields from the auditor's abstract to the auditor's tax totals and tax capacity rate listing. See your auditor's abstract reference, which you guys will be getting that handout regarding how fields are populated, etc. Option number 12, we're not doing that. That will be communicated to you when that is a done deal, when programming is ready. And here is just a brief example of proofing. Now that you have your abstract, proofing it against your tax calc totals. And Susie has already gone over this, but this is just another, just another reminder on how to do it. Line 100, you can kind of see the red ones go together, the ones in yellow go together, and the ones in orange go together. And again, that abstract reference book will guide you on where to find them in the abstract listing. Okay, on to the tax increment districts and parcels. This is optional. If you don't have it, you don't need to do this. This is located in what you'll want to do first is get the tax increment finance district listing, which is located in system file. If this is an incomplete listing, update your TIF in the options below, and you'll need to go into the TIF subsystem and maintain it, and then print whatever you need after everything is updated. And you'll want to look at the parcel listing and the tax listing to make sure everything is what it should be. And then once you've done that, you're going to build and list your tax increment abstract. And again, this is in your miscellaneous subsystem within tax increment, option number 20, tax increment abstract. You'll take option number 1, you're going to build the tax increment abstract. Option to build the TIF abstract. You'll want to enter to progress through the districts. And then once you see the data, if everything looks good, you'll want to hit enter. Otherwise, you can go ahead and make changes. Oh, at least it's happening for Susan too. Okay, so within the tax increment abstract, we're going to do option number 2, list the tax increment abstract. And option number 1 will generate the abstract using information listed during the build. Option number 2 will allow you to edit the information listed in the previous step. You will need to press enter through the parameter file maintenance screen, correcting any information as necessary. For each district, enter the adjustment amounts for the prior years. They may be positive or negative amounts. Note, Prism submission does not pull from the TIF abstract. It's mostly for your records. After you do that, you're going to get this next question. Do you wish to create a PDF file of the abstract? Yes or no? No for the above question will generate your abstract to your spooled file. And yes, it will generate a PDF called 2025 Increment Abstract located in your tax bill folder. Proof the abstract against the listings in step 3 of the sequence. And then finally, option 3 has been replaced with the PRISM submission. No need to run this option, so just disregard that. And the next step will be to submit your PRISM, but as we've reiterated a few times, you need to wait for that until the sequence is sent out. We will communicate when that's ready. All right.
Now you just sent me yours. Do you have?
I do.
Yours?
Yep.
Okay, so the next step, so that there's your abstracts for proofing. Then you will submit your PRISM and wait, like it says on this sheet, wait until you have final approval for your PRISM, and we'll go back to tax prep and calc 3, and then we can go into our other side things. So let's start back into tax prep and calc 3B. This is another one after final PRISM approval. So at this point, you can print your tax statements, let your outsourcer know you're ready to print, move forward with Sue. You also are probably ready to do your L statements and web. Email us with the date you made your final outsource file. And if you have co-op tax statements, there's information for that in the sequence. If you're not sure about that, give us a call. This is where you're printing a statement per record. They don't go on the web or anything like that, but you can actually send those out to folks. Then we're going to go work in our system file before we do kind of the large step of moving things along. You want everyone out of your tax system. You're going to back up your tax files. Here's the large step, update to treasurers. This is going to repopulate your inquiry. It's going to push new data to the web. It's really a big step. If you are wondering, have questions about doing this because it's your first time, give us a call before doing it. Once you do that, you'll rebuild your index files, which that's what's going to actually repopulate your inquiry. You'll kick everyone out of the system, run these 3 steps. There's not much involved on your side. There's a lot of data that goes into it on programming.
And you'll want to make sure you coordinated with your tax statements on the web. I mean, even though we're not going to go through all the steps of moving outsource files over there and all that, you still want to coordinate when that happens with your update to treasurers.
Yeah, so when you're working through the steps, I think it's like step 9 or something, that's L statements and web. You'll want to let us know when you're planning to update to the web, when you want them sent over there, that web part, and this update to treasurers, which updates your value information on the web. You'll want to coordinate so that you have the right statements with the right information. At this point, we ask you to go back and double check your penalty interest dates. You should have put this information in around the 1st of the year, but we know you're doing a lot around the 1st of the year. And we regularly have people catching things and going, oh, I wasn't thinking about this at the time. And so just taking a moment to go back and double check your penalty and tax parameters, make sure all the information on your interest calculation option screen is truly the way you want it to be. You've changed dates to accommodate weekends and holidays. Again, give us a call with questions. And then we're going to look at total settlement. So before you do anything with this update to treasurers, you're going to want to go into your total settlement in your tax M23, calculate your total settlement, option 3, and then list your total settlement, by all the ways that you want to proof back to your previous listings. Make sure everything is still the way you want it to be. You would proof your, total settlement, at least proof your tax totals back to your tax totals, your gross tax and your net tax. Make sure nothing went goofy. Another thing that you can do is to compare your tax settlement rates to your initial rates listing. Your tax settlement rates you list in tax M23. That's option 11. And then your option tax M22, option 11 is what we've been looking at up until now. They really should match. Once you've done your total settlement and it looks good, you are ready to start posting taxes, posting abatements, And then updating your transmission distribution lines, your wind tower and solar power, and your mineral interest. You want to make sure you update your real estate first to treasurers, then we go back and update your subsystems to treasurers. So I'm going to go through the transmission distribution lines and then pass it off for the others, because this is really the second half. You'll see both the tax prep and calc 3B and the transmission distribution lines 3B, they do not start at step 1. Transmission distribution lines 3B or transmission distribution line B starts at step 8, because steps 1 through 7 are in A. You're going to list tax statements. We do this here by generating PDF files. You need to make sure your X drive has been mapped in order to do this. That's something you would talk to your IT about. We'll do PDF files, and then you do selected parcels. They're each going to pop up on your screen to be printed separately. For L statements in the web, you still will take option 3 and create your outsource file. Let us know that it's there. Again, coordinate when you want it moved. And then once you've done that, we will update to treasurers. Make sure real estate has been updated to treasurers first. Then you're ready to update transmission distribution lines to treasurers. Calculate your total settlement, list your total settlement, proof it back to tax rolls or totals. Same thing that we did in real estate. Once that's all done and good, you're ready to post taxes, abatements, etc. And that's the end of mine.
It's in the tax support meetings.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go pull the other ones. It's in, okay, who's first, Shannon or Julie?
I think I am.
Okay, Julie. It really doesn't matter, but we did number them for you, so 7 and 8. You could do one or the other, but we'll try to follow the order that you have them in. Is this Julie's?
This is mine.
Okay, here we
I'm
go.
going to talk about mineral interest quick. It's in one of our subsystems, so if you go into tax M20, it's in number 11 with the power line tax increment in there. And then once you are in there, you can select the mineral interest option. You can go to option number 1 to maintain your parcels. And use number 11 to list and proof your parcels. The second option is to list and maintain your parcel values. If you choose option 1, that's the general information.
Yeah, go forward.
You into
Sorry. Oh, there, okay.
Yeah, option 1 is where you will maintain your general information such as acreage, assessment, homestead codes, etc. Just so you know, mineral interest tax is based on acreage rather than value or tax capacity. This is similar to the other taxes. You will go in and calculate your taxes. And if you will round up here, they will round to the partial acre. The partial acre will round up to a whole acre. You'll have that option on the bottom of your screen. Then you are going to accumulate and list your tax totals, running both these to verify the values on the listing. Total mineral interest taxes equals total mineral interest acres by the rate per acre. Then you're going to assign receipt numbers. We recommend that your mineral interest parcels start with the 50001. And you can list your tax rolls, so you can go back and proof your tax roll listing and verify that your tax totals are equal your tax totals listing, and then another time to check for those receipt numbers that you maybe forgot. And then you're going to list tax statements. You're going to go over to the treasurer's side there. And then you're going to list your tax statements, which you can do by laser or PDF, just very similar to your other tax statements. And then you're going to pause because you don't want to update anything until real estate has been updated. And then you're going to update to the treasurer's files. You're going to go back to the auditor's menus. And that'll move the files to the treasurers, which will allow for receiving, posting, and for settlements. And then you can calculate total settlement and list your total settlement and prove those totals back to be sure those amounts are correct.
One more. We have a random question we'll get back to later, but I'm not seeing any questions on like our actual info we're presenting here.
Okay, this is Shannon, and I'm gonna talk about wind tower and solar power taxes. A lot of this is gonna be, you're gonna recognize from the prior sequences. This may be run anytime after final tax calc, but you should not be updated, but should not be updated to the treasurer's file until after real estate has been updated to the treasurer's files. The first step is you're going to list and maintain the parcel information, and to find the wind tower and solar power menu, you can go into the auditor's menu and you'll pick number 11, which is the miscellaneous subsystems, and you'll choose number 11. So it doesn't say solar power on there, but it does include solar power. So just remember that. And then you can go into that menu, and you will start by maintaining your parcel information, option number 1, and then listing and proofing your parcels, which is option 11. Then you are going to create and maintain your tax records, and you'll do this by going into option 3, which creates the tax records. You'll want to choose yes to, and then enter to rebuild the file. Then you'll go into option 4, and when you go into that option right away, press F11 and you'll display the screen in the middle on the right side. And that is where you can edit the information that you want on your tax statements with your county name and the issue date and the due date for the taxes. Then once you hit enter to save those changes, you'll still be in option 4 where you can input each parcel and the record number to be maintained, and then you can choose your assessment code if you need to. So wind towers is 590 and solar power is number 591. The state will certify the tax due to the county auditor on or before February 28th. So once you get that information from the state, then you can input it in the screen on the lower right-hand side. When that is finished, you can list and proof your tax rolls. And for that, you're still in the auditor menu, and you will choose number 14, which is list your tax rolls. And once you're done with that, you'll go over into the treasurer's menu. And on the lower right-hand side of the auditor's menu, there under number 20, there is a shortcut to get there. So once you're over there, the first thing you're going to want to do is to list and print your statements. So you'll choose number 3. And that will take you to this screen. And in order to meet the Department of Revenue tax statement standards, choose for option number 4, choose number 3, which is to create the outsource file and PDF statements. Again, same as the other statements you printed. And you'll also want to choose under number 8 to print all your parcel numbers. And one note, there are not receipt numbers for these statements. So just remember that when you're proofing those. Your outsource file is in your tax bill folder. And I put on this what it is called. The PDF statements are in your tax bill folder in the media file. And again, if you want to activate L statements and move statements to the web, contact CPT. Pause here. Do not update your wind tower to treasurers until you have first updated real estate to treasurers. And then lastly, you're going to update to treasurers. And here you're going to be in the auditor's menu first. and you will choose option number 8, update tax values to treasurer files. And then you are going to choose number 9, which calculates your settlement. And then option 19, which lists your settlement. Proof it, look it over good. And remember that tax for these split 80% county, 20% township. And then you should be ready to post.
Mhm. So we have a question in the chat that says, I'm assuming Prism files don't capture transmission distribution, wind tower, solar power, mineral interest. Close. You can see when we send you, why is it not letting me do anything here? When we send you the sequences, tax and transmission, we want you to run before Prism because Prism pulls tax and transmission distribution line. The wind tower, solar power, and the mineral interest, those do not pull into Prism. So you do not have to do those until after. Oh, it says I'm not sharing. I hope they've been seeing. That's why I can't do it because it said it wasn't sharing. Could you guys see our, oh, still appeared. Stop share. Oh no, it says I am sharing. Okay. Ooh. Yes, we can still see your screen. Perfect. Okay. Another random question says random question on settlements. What exactly does the township breakdown settlement report tell us? I'm not sure what that question means.
Like total settlement, regular settlement, which settlement are we talking?
Right. So it's gonna look similar for total settlement, regular settlement, you name it. See this? Can I just escape that? That's what's going on, is that screen is stuck for me for some reason. Okay. So if we go in, I'm not ready to run a regular settlement, but I should be able to run my total settlement. And you're talking about this township. Oh, hold on. What are the numbers in the report looking at? The payout settlement. Township breakdown, yes. So they're talking about this township breakdown.
What does payout mean?
So if we open the township breakdown, it's going to give you, does that look weird? Oh, I don't have fund descriptions for some reason in here. Well, that's weird. But it's gonna give you your
County.
gross tax and net tax by township. And then if you go down to the bottom, oh, is it at the bottom or is it a separate listing? You get your township breakdown. But I believe this is the one that actually generates two. It generates your township breakdown by township, and then it gives you your settlement summary. That's funny. I ran this and took screenshots of it and it had fund descriptions before. I have to look at that later. Does that answer your question? Or if it doesn't, do you want to unmute and
Yeah, there we go. I finally,
Okay.
can you hear me now? It's whenever I run and if you don't have it in front of you, but it's when I run the payout settlement, when I do a settlement.
in May or
Um,
October?
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
yep. Whenever I do one of those, I can always run a report that's called, well, I always have to run the township breakdown in order to get my settlement summary.
Right.
But that township breakdown, I just don't understand what those numbers are telling me. It's just one that is always confusing to me. Because it doesn't match how much we're paying. So I guess what is it pulling into that report?
You know
What is
what?
that?
Yeah, and we're not really ready to run because, you know, we haven't made any payments here this year in our files.
So you can't
But
look
we
at
are-
one.
We are planning to do another Zoom because we have so many new people in like a month or so about
Okay,
ACH, escrow, and settlements.
okay, so then we can look at it then.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we
Okay.
pull that and run it and then come and ask all your questions. That would be a great thing to do.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions?
This is Vicky from Douglas. When you run the like abstract calculation, is it automatically accumulating now? I think Gwen at one time in a past meeting had said you were gonna do some automatic change that if you run a calc, it's automatically gonna accumulate. Or did you not make that?
That is in the new e-tax.
Ah, okay. Got it.
Yes, that is what I meant. I don't know. I mean, we certainly could look at that for, if we aren't on e-tax the coming year, we could look at that because that would not be like a major change. It wouldn't be that hard. That, and what the e-tax is if you run a calc of tax values and you choose all, you have to choose all, then we automatically accumulate tax totals.
So
So
this is probably not changing this year.
Not
but if
this
we're
year.
not on e-tax by
No.
next year, we might be able to do something
Yeah,
here by next
yeah,
year.
yeah.
It's a good note.
Yeah, just rename it calc and accumulate tax values.
Cause they go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Right, you really can't do 6 unless you do 5.
Right.
Right. Anything else? All right. Well, I will stop recording. And